Welcome in everyone to the Larsonland podcast. I'm your host, Sawyer Hill, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Dylan Bradshaw. We come in here every single week and talk about all things involving the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Young Money Kyle Larson. Dylan, it's tough to get on here today. We're recording this right after the race just wrapped up, and disappointing again. It seems like it's been a year of disappointment for us so far as Larson fans. And obviously, we try to cover it from an unbiased perspective. But man, it's like, it's just. I'm speechless after today. Kyle, he should have another one that he should have been able to win and just didn't work out at the end.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, last week finished second in all three stages. Today, stage one finished second, won stage two, got some playoff points there. But man, today just really sucked. I mean, he led 201 laps. He was the car to beat. Stage three, Harvick was kind of gaining on him. His speed was undeniable in stage three. He had a crazy long run car, but the lap traffic was kind of screwing Larson a little bit. But
Yeah.
man, that you just hate to see that. We talked about it last week when Byron win. You always want to see the car that just dominates the race get the win, and unfortunately, it wasn't the case today. We actually got lucky this time with a late race caution, gave us a chance, got a good pit stop. Pit crew did pretty well today, all across the board. The Hendrick pit crews, they were money. But man, what can you do about it? It's tough right now being a Larson fan.
Definitely is, and especially with no dirt stuff right now, man. It's like there's nothing else to like. It usually we kind of have that like, oh, by Tuesday he's running something on dirt, and we can kind of just get move on past it and not really like think about it for another week or like for another like a whole week. But like right now, it's like, dude, we're sitting there for 7 days. We see him, fastest in practice, 0.3 of a second faster in the first round of qualifying, and we're like, okay, like this is gonna be the week. Like he is going to dominate, win this race, and nobody's going to be able to touch him. And it looked like it was going to be that way for the majority of this race. And you alluded to the pit stops. I know last week there was a lot of criticism of the pit stops and the pit crew. I didn't think the pit crew did a bad job last weekend. They had the last stop. Obviously, Byron just barely beat Larson out last week at Vegas. But this week, there's no debating. The pit crew was awesome. They were lights out. Stall number one definitely helps that. I think stall number one at Phoenix seems to be very good. I mean, we saw Larson win the championship from stall one in 2021, and then Logano win from stall one last year in the championship race. But pit crew was lights out, like you said, and it's just it's frustrating. I mean, we saw the pit crew make up for. I mean, at the beginning of the race, in that first stage, Byron got out to the lead at the beginning of the race over Kyle. Kyle kind of got loose on like lap 5 or 6 there in the beginning and lost the lead. And at the end of the stage, obviously Byron won the stage and Larson was able to take the lead back on pit road. And from that point on, it looked like it was his race. It really did. And then the lap traffic in stage three. I know Austin Cindric was the biggest one that kind of cost Larson the lead there, and I understand the Ford. You don't expect the Ford team to really help out the Chevys and Hendrick, but some of these lap cars were just pesky today out there. It was like guys that were 2 and 3 laps down, and they would just sit there and sit there and sit there. And it always seems like the guy that's in the lead has it the worst with the lap traffic because as soon as that guy gets by, they're not going to fight the second place car as hard. And that's kind of what happened with Cindric, and Harvick was able to sneak by. And really, up until that last caution with 10 to go, or not the last caution, but the caution that allowed Larson to get back into the thing, it looked like Harvick was pretty much going to run away with it and win it.
Yeah, I think a big takeaway this year so far is, I mean, it's been obviously Hedrick dominated the past 2 weeks. It's pretty much just been Larson, Byron, and everyone else, but just Chevy in general. I mean, it's the first time since 2004. Chevy's won the first 4 races. Today at Phoenix, all Hendrick cars were in the top 10. Barry finished 10th, Bowman finished
That's
8th.
awesome.
Byron obviously won, Larson fourth, and big improvement from Barry's standpoint. Everyone's kind of, getting down on him for hopping in for Chase Elliott, but racked up a 10th place finish. He was a big mover throughout the race, but As far as the race go, we mentioned last week, there is the new lower downforce package that we displayed here at Phoenix for the short tracks. I think it's slightly improved the product of racing here a little bit. I mean, it doesn't say much because Phoenix just isn't much of a passing track. You have that on your restarts pretty much, but other than that, it's pretty much just pit road. That's the factor in terms of passing. But I think the real test for that package will be at the smaller tracks like Martinsville and Richmond. I think that'll really play a part. But um, I mean, like I said earlier, Harvick, I think he had the best long run car. Reddick was very good today. He got the top three finish there at the end. A lot of movers outside the top 10. Chris Buescher did pretty well. Like I said, Josh Berry did pretty well. So throughout the field, there was your movers, but not a ton of lead changes. Larson, Harvick, and Byron, they combined for 301 laps led today. So it was pretty heavily dominated from those three.
Absolutely, and as far as that the late race caution goes, it was kind of funny. Like I last week we were PSG in it the whole way, and we obviously got the late race caution that cost Larson the lead. And I thought today we saw with 10 to go. I was tweeting right before that on the Larsonland Twitter. I put out a poll like, will there be a caution? And it was like I think it was like in like 5 minutes there was like 80 some votes on their or 80 some like responses on the poll, and it was like 50-50. And then I put out another poll seconds before the caution came out, and I was joking with you. I was texting you saying like asking if Almirola was going to bring out another caution. I put the poll out, and then right after that, it was Harrison Burton that ended up causing the caution. But it would have been pretty funny if Almirola would have brought another late race caution out and affected the outcome of the race.
Yeah, I mean, we were texting, joking around because Harvick obviously took the lead from him. And we're like, there's not going to be a yellow coming out because Larson's in second. We're not going to get that lucky. But finally, tables turned, and there at the end when Larson came in first on the restart, he took a huge jump off of that. I think if there wasn't the caution from Gibbs there, I mean, I think Larson was kind of pulling away, and he had that one in the bag. But that second caution, it was just tough. And on the restart, Larson kind of stayed in the restart zone. I think if he went low there, then we would have been good to go. But he stayed with Byron. Byron got a huge push from Reddick on the outside, and Larson just kind of got caught up in the middle, and not much you can do there from the middle. But I do think if he stayed low, he kind of had it there.
And kind of backing up a step from that, just looking at that caution with 10 or 9 laps to go, whatever it was, for Harrison Burton. What did you think of the call to take two tires? I know when I first saw it, you were talking. I wasn't listening to the TV broadcast. I was just listening to the team radio and the in-car camera from Kyle. You said Larry McReynolds said that anybody that takes two tires should be fired on the last stop, and then 6 cars took two tires. I was skeptical of it too. I was like, I think that they're going to get blown away by the cars on four. And I think Reddick was one of those guys that took four, right? And he ended up finishing third.
I don't remember the car. I think Harvick was the first car that took four. I think he came out what, seventh or eighth.
Yeah,
But
I
but
know
I,
he ended
I
up
was
seventh or eighth, but I wasn't sure if Reddick took four tires or not. But either way, I think I was surprised. Obviously only 3 laps, and then ended up being overtime, the green white checkered. But I was surprised that they held up as good as they did. I guess it just kind of goes back to like what we said, like Phoenix just super hard to pass, and I guess you figure if you get a couple rows locked out with two tires, then there's not much you can really do.
Yeah, I was listening to the scanner, and he was coming in. Cliff was like saying the call was desert, and automatically you assume. I mean, you're expecting a four tire pit. You hear a call. I kind of assumed that they were going to end up taking two, but yeah, Larry McReynolds, he came on. He was like, "If you take two tires here, you're getting fired the next morning." And it was funny because after the race, he was like, "Man, you're Randy Fuger right now. You're just absolutely brilliant taking two tires." It's pretty funny, but yeah. Thankfully, Larson was on the same page as Byron, and they all took two, and he came out on up front. But yeah, it's still tough for Harvick there. I mean, he really had a super quick car. He led like 60 some laps there in stage three, but he still came out with the top five finish. He's the GOAT at Phoenix.
Yeah,
He started 15th. He's undeniably the GOAT at Phoenix. He's just incredible there. I think that makes it 20 straight seasons with a top, or 20 straight races with a top 10 at Phoenix. So crazy stat there.
yeah, and would have been his what 10th win if he were
Yep.
able to do it. He's gonna get one more chance to do it in the season finale this year, if he is fully done with his NASCAR career after Phoenix. I think he said that he's not going to come back and do any part time stuff. So that's going to be it at Phoenix. That's a kind of a good way to end it for the goat at Phoenix. To be able to have that be his last race. And I know I haven't always been like a big Harvick fan, but like there's no other like better storybook ending than that. Whether it's him winning a championship with that race, which I think is unlikely, but for him to walk away and win at Phoenix, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. He had a crazy run at the end of their last year. He wasn't really doing much, and what was that? He had 2 wins in a row, I think it was.
Yeah.
So he just caught fire there at the end of the season, and I thought he was going to make a pretty good run. But yeah, I mean, he's a legend. It sucks that these guys that everyone's growing up watching, kind of getting out of the sport. But I mean, we will see him in the booth. He's joining the Fox booth next year, so he won't be completely out of it. But one more talking point I want to cover. We don't know too much about it, but after practice, there was like that louver situation. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Oh yeah,
Where
yeah.
the vents on the hood. Um, NASCAR like confiscated all of the louvers from the Hendrick cars. Something about the sizing, and everyone's up in the air about penalizing them and taking points away. Like throw the hammer at them. Same thing that they did to RFK last year. They're cheating, but no one really knows anything about it. There's the chance that it's mo- they're saying it was modified, but it could have been a manufacturing flaw from the vendor. I don't know. They said teams were having trouble fitting them in. It wasn't just Hendrick, the 31 car of Haley. He got his confiscated, so NASCAR is looking over that. They did say if there's going to be any penalization that it would come Monday or Tuesday, so keep an eye out on that. But the Hendrick guys, they didn't seem too concerned about it. I don't think they did anything wrong. I think it was just a manufacturing error, but there's really no, fact about any of it yet.
Yeah, it's super weird, and people were kind of like going back to like last weekend's race at Vegas. Obviously, Hendrick dominated that race too, and they were like thinking like, oh well, like that's why they were so dominant the weekend before. But and I was even texting back and forth with you about this over the weekend that really, if there was a problem with the louvers the week before, they would have saw that in technical inspection after the race. So a little bit weird. I don't think that there's going to be my prediction. I don't think there's going to be any penalties for this, especially with it being Hendrick. The Justin Haley one kind of makes me feel a little bit better about it because it's not just all four Hendrick cars. There's another car outside of Hendrick that there was an issue with too. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. We saw the Denny Hamlin tape incident last year at Pocono. That was a bizarre thing that ended up leading to a penalty or a win being stripped from him actually in that one. So it's hard to say on some of these deals, especially with the next gen car. This is kind of a little bit still unprecedented. We haven't seen enough instances of where things like this are wrong with vendor supplied parts, how NASCAR rules on it, and how they decide. And another good point that you brought up when we were texting back and forth about it is, I mean, how do we know whether the vendor supplied part was incorrectly manufactured when Hendrick got it, or if Hendrick made an alteration to it? There's no way for NASCAR to be able to tell. I mean, I don't know how they could unless they see everything beforehand and make sure it's fine. I don't know if they would be able to even tell.
Yeah, hashtag Louvergate. We got a whole scandal going on here. No, I mean, like I said, we don't know too much about it. It's kind of just all speculation. But like I said, I do think it could have possibly been a manufacturing issue. Really, no way to tell. Just from looking at it, I mean, I saw some aerial shots of the hoods of the cars, and I mean, they look the same as everyone else, but there is the internals because the hood has the holes for it in the car. But the only thing I noticed is Hendrick doesn't wrap it all the way, which other teams do. But I
Right.
mean, there's really no cosmetic difference that I can see. But I guess we'll see if we'll be penalized on Monday or Tuesday. I think we're good, but with the way the season's going for us Larson fans, I mean, at the end of the day, we're sitting here complaining about like a second place
And a
finish, a
fourth.
top five.
Yep.
The expectations are just so high
Yeah.
because he's just running so good. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's having some very good points days. Finished fourth, got second stage one, stage two, so you can't complain there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was gonna say next. Was man, it's so easy to get down on these races, but I think everybody should keep their heads up. I mean, the Hendrick has been super fast the entire season so far to this point. Kyle's been super fast. I mean, you could argue every single race this year that he's had a car capable of winning and running out front. Um, there were races last year where it wasn't like that. So we're off to I would say, a better start than last year. The car looks like it has a lot of speed, and they seem to have something over these other teams, whatever that may be. Hopefully, it's not a louver. Hopefully, it's something that's not related to that. But I think that the cars look fast, and man, there's nothing to be down about in a race like this. Obviously, it sucks. We want to get that win, but Hendrick again in victory lane, 2 wins for William now. I think Kyle's win is coming. It's we keep on saying it, but he's knocking on the door. The race cars are fast. Obviously, we go to Atlanta this week, a track that we don't like. Just gonna say it. It sucks. That track is garbage. But Kyle looked better at Daytona this year. Has been doing better on super speedways. Maybe it's time for him to break through and win the fake super speedway race at Atlanta on the mile and a half configuration there. I hope that would put the icing on the cake for me if Kyle was able to the past 2 weeks dominate at tracks that he should have won at, and then come back and win on a track that he obviously nobody expects him to win on at all.
Yeah, I mean, we have Atlanta, like you said, then follow that up with the road course at Coda. Strong there, has a good chance, but I mean, we've talked about it. He's been strong at these super speedways, top five at Dega last year. He had I think the car to beat at Daytona this year, the 500. Got kind of screwed there late, and Atlanta. I mean, it's another test for him. Willie B might stay hot. He won Atlanta last year, so he could make that three in a row, and Ty Larson in 2021 for 3 wins in a row. So. Um, We'll just have to see, but man, Hendrick's just been on fire, and it's a good time to be a Hendrick fan, even if it's not Larson. Getting the
Unless
win,
you're a Chase
it's good to
Elliott
see.
fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Chase Elliott fan, not a big fan of snowboarding right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, but still a good time.
Absolutely. So I think that's pretty much all we have for today's show. Obviously, still we're waiting on some dirt stuff on the schedule. I don't think there's going to be anything again this week. I've kind of been asking around a little bit, but I don't think really expect anything. Obviously, stuff pops up last minute. We saw that with the Florida Georgia Speed Week stuff where he ran Golden Isle and Volusia and Bubba's and all that. It was last minute stuff. We don't know. We don't have his schedule. We don't know when he's racing specifically, but if he does, you know where to find the information. Larsonland on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on YouTube here if you're listening on YouTube. Um, but yeah, we're going to keep everybody up to date on all things Kyle Larson like we usually do. And we'll be back again next week to recap Atlanta. And if he does run any other dirt stuff that comes up, we'll cover that as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please follow our podcast so you don't miss a thing. Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and enjoy the on track action next weekend at Atlanta. We will see you in the next episode.